Hello friends, welcome to my channel if you're new here, welcome back if you're a returning subscriber. My name is Brittany. On this channel I share my stupid opinions about the books I've been reading. Today's book is Five Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richards. Content warnings are always going to be right here moving forward. So here are some content warnings before we get into it. I want to kind of walk you through the average rating on Goodreads and the story graph, how many ratings there are on Goodreads, and then we'll go through my own personal review. Five Total Strangers has a total of 67,041 ratings and averages 3.31 on Goodreads. It averages 3.25 on the story graph. So with that being said, we're gonna jump into what the book is about and run through the CAWPILE of it. We are following Mira, who is our main character, who just wants to get home from California to Pittsburgh to spend Christmas with her mother, who is still grieving the loss of her twin sister, which happened a year ago. As Mira is flying from California into Newark, all flights along the East Coast have been canceled, including her layover flight from Newark to Pittsburgh because of a blizzard that has been slamming down on the East Coast. So when she lands in Newark, it is a total shit show. The airport is complete chaos. They're setting up cots and all that fun stuff because basically every flight out is canceled. Mira is absolutely desperate to get home to her mom, and she ends up accepting a ride from a woman she met on the plane. The person who was sitting next to her on the plane's name is Harper, and she's rented a car to drive from Newark to wherever it is that she's going. She's offered to drop Mira off in Pittsburgh on her way to wherever she's going. The car also has 3 extra people who Mira assumes are Harper's friends from college. As we're driving along through Pennsylvania, the weather is quickly becoming more and more perilous for the individuals in the car. Mira's actually realizing as time goes on that the 4 people she's riding with actually don't know each other at all, and they're not friends. As we're progressing along, things start happening, and we come to realize that the snow and the icy roads aren't the only issue that the passengers in this car are facing. Someone in the car isn't who they say they are, and the trip is destined to turn deadly. That's my paraphrase from Goodreads synopsis, just because I know myself well enough to know that if I wrote my own, I would spoil it. Let's run through everything. The characters. Mira is barely 18 years old. She is still in high school. She's very, very, very talented at art, and she is flying home to spend Christmas with her mom in Pittsburgh, like I said, because she's concerned that her mother's mental health isn't doing great in the year since her aunt passed away. Harper is the person that Mira meets on the plane. I want to say that she's somewhere around 21 years old. She's definitely not old enough to rent a car, but she is wealthy enough to rent a car. I wagered her to be around a college sophomore or junior. We also have Brecken, who is the epitome of college frat boy. He's a 6th generation med student. Apparently he grew up driving in like upstate New York, so he's very good at driving in the snow, or so he tells everybody. I feel like he really hit every stereotype in the book when it came to wealthy med school boys, just my opinion. We have Kayla, who is a sleepy girl, doesn't have a phone. That's all that we really know about her. Something is off about her for much of this book, and I'll leave it to you to read it and figure out what it is that's off about her. Josh is a student at Carnegie Mellon University. He is described as coffee shop cute, whatever that is. He reads absolute tomes of books. Like, the books that he's reading on this road trip are massive. Somehow in all of this, he's like the voice of reason on this car ride. I don't know how that befell him when he's not even the person who rented the vehicle, but everybody seems to listen to Josh. One of the key traits of him is that he tore his ACL, so he's on crutches. For the most part, I said that characters were pretty thoroughly developed. My one complaint is that everybody kind of seemed to fit into a stereotype, and that's not always fun to read. This is a YA thriller, so I kind of knew going into it that we would be hitting on all of these stereotypes, but even still, you have hope that we're not going to hit all these key archetypes within the book. It feels like the stereotypes are used as red herrings to lead the reader astray, but for me, a seasoned thriller reader, it was kind of clear from the start who is the person who's dead set set on making this ride be a deadly one. Main characters are, of course, super important to the story. There are side characters who are brought in that it's not really clear why they were necessary, aside from being red herrings. I wanted them to play more important of roles, and there is one character in particular that I was hoping would fit into the puzzle with the 5 main characters. The side character that continuously shows up along the route that these 5 are taking. At the end, it really seemed kind of pointless to include that character. I gave the characters overall 7 out of 10. Overall, the atmosphere is tense the entire time that you're reading this book, which is so great. I freaking love it when that happens. For a very long while, I felt very much No Exit vibes from this book. Definitely not as dark as No Exit, because this is meant for a YA audience as opposed to an adult audience, but still, it very much gave No Exit with the blizzard and getting stuck in various places. I loved it. When we enter this book, we're at the full ground stop in Newark, and the circus that is the airport and the pure chaos of everybody losing their shit in the airport was very much anxiety inducing for me. I don't really think that I can fully explain the way that this book made me feel, but I will say that the atmosphere was overall really great. The intensity and the tension builds the worse and worse and worse the storm gets, which I think is great. Overall, I think that the dynamic between all of the characters adds to the tension and does not retract from the tension. Also, like, fun fact, I am from Pennsylvania, so reading about my home state and blizzards that take place in my home state felt very real for me. I think that the author did it justice for PA blizzards, from my own experiences, of course. So, atmosphere overall, we have 8 out of 10. I wouldn't say that this is the very best piece of writing I've ever read in my life. I feel like nothing stood out as overtly impressive to me. I will say that the author's use of these stereotypical character archetypes kind of felt like she was just using that to lead us astray, and I'm not a huge fan of that. Before we even reached the end, I knew just from the language that was used who wasn't who they said that they were. All of that, I really feel like the writing was just fine. I gave it a little bit above average and went with a 7 because I don't have any true complaints outside of let me try to lead you astray with these stereotypes. With the plot, I felt like everything was going very well in this book for me. The ending just felt very rushed and messy. And even though I could figure out very quickly who it was, I was really enjoying the build-up. I thought that it was going great. I just don't know that the side characters were necessary to the plot. Some of them, it was like, well, what the fuck was that for? Like, that makes no sense. Why did they have to be there? Make it make sense. With most thrillers, I don't like endings that are like open to interpretation. I just feel like this one ended so abruptly, and I wasn't a huge fan of that. So plot overall, 7 out of 10. It was fine, but it wasn't anything that I would shout from the rooftops. My interest in the characters was the driving force behind my intrigue in this one. The plot was fine. I knew what it was gonna be. But because of my interest in the characters and my investment in the plot until a certain point, I thought it was fair to give intrigue an 8 out of 10. I literally could not put this book down once I picked it up. I read it in one day. Points docked for the ending because I wasn't a huge fan of it. Did find myself rolling my eyes the closer and closer I got to the end. But I would still say all of the points for holding me until damn near the end. My interest, that is. So like I said, it was an 8 out of 10. It wasn't a bad time. You know, I was invested. The logic of this, there are 2 key issues that I have with the logic of this. I strive to make this as spoiler-free as possible. Here we go. These are non-spoilery issues that I saw. No one was old enough to rent a car, and I refuse to believe that money can buy you anything when it comes to renting a car. As somebody who has rented cars in my life, they don't make it easy for me, and I'm 33 fucking years old. There's no way they're gonna make it easy for someone who is 21. The second issue. It was clear to me from the beginning that the people riding in this car did not know each other. I could not figure out why it took Mira so long to realize that no one knew each other. She wasn't dumb, except for in that aspect. I also really couldn't understand Mira's need to be the shoulder that her mother leaned on. I really hate it when YA characters take on adult responsibilities for the adults in their lives. It didn't make sense to me that she would feel so responsible for her mother's emotions. Nothing's more illogical to me, especially when it was clear to me that Mira's mother was fully like a fucking developed human. She managed to take care of herself. She's a nurse. She showed up to work, but Mira is so dead set on taking care of her mom that she fails to see that her mom might have moved on from the grief. Like, she hasn't seen her mom since the sister passed away. The grief is fresh, obviously, when Mira last sees her mom, but in her mind, mom is still coping as she was the last time she saw her, which was just after her sister passed away. And it's just like, why? Do we not talk? Do we not communicate? That didn't make sense to me, because Mira is like, well, my mom and I have a great relationship, but clearly you don't, because you're not calling her. You're not asking her how she's doing. And also, there was a divorce subplot to this book that was never fully touched on. So there's that for the logic. It was an 8 out of 10. For enjoyment, it was a solid cast of characters and a pretty darn good plot that kept me interested until just about the end. The end is where my enjoyment absolutely fucking tanked, and so I gave it an 8 out of 10 for enjoyment. And so we have our totals, which are 53 out of 70, an average of 7.57, which means that I gave this book 4 stars. I don't have anything else to say about the book. I think that this system is a very fair way of rating books, and so I really do enjoy going through my reviews this way. With that said, I'm gonna head out so I can film some more reviews. Thanks so much for being here with me for this one. If you like the video, make sure you leave a like. Let me know in the comments if you think yourself as a teenager would have ever gotten in a car with 4 total strangers for a blizzardy road trip. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed to my channel, feel free to do so. It is absolutely free for you and fun for me, so join me. Otherwise, I will see you in my next video. Take care.